Hey guys, welcome back to the Ultimate Goosebumps Man channel, and today I am finally getting back around to doing book reviews. I have been away from it for a while because, as I mentioned in some of my earlier videos, I kind of lost some faith in the channel, wasn't doing that well, but now I'm back. I've already posted a few videos, my collabs with Completionist and Aussie Fan, which is awesome. Those guys are great. It's been great talking with them. I've done my DVD hauls, and I've done a few videos like that. But I wanted to get back into book reviews because that's kind of what I started my channel foundation on, and I want to get back into it. And of course, because I'm reading the books in order, we are now on Goosebumps number 3, Monster Blood. Now, I'm going to say this right now. This is not my favorite book. And in my rereads, I've gone through the first 4 completely, and I'm in the middle of Curse of the Mummy's Tomb right now. But as of this moment, this book is easily my least favorite. It's just kind of a mediocre book. It's definitely not as scary as the other 3 in that set, Dead House, Basement, and Say Cheese and Die. But yeah, this book is just, I don't know, it's not my favorite. It has a lot of very silly elements to it. It's definitely not scary. Yeah, you can definitely tell Stein was wanting a more comedic story with this one. Mainly probably because of how dark, Dead House and Basement were. Since both of these books are pretty dark, and there's a lot of grisly stuff, especially in Dead House, that, I think some parents probably were a little shocked by and maybe weren't expecting, so, I feel like maybe Stein wanted to level it back, and that's why he did this. But I don't know. The only way to know is really to ask him, but obviously I'm not sure if I'll ever meet him, so I don't think the answer will ever be there, but whatever it is, yeah, I'm not a big fan of this book, as I keep saying. But yeah, it's, might as well get into the plot first before I get more in depth on my thoughts. Basically, this book follows a boy named Evan who is going to stay with his Aunt Catherine while his parents, I believe, are moving to Atlanta. I don't remember the exact location, but his family's moving and looking at the house in the state. And so they're dropping Evan off at his Aunt Catherine's house. And Aunt Catherine is this very weird, very eccentric lady. She's deaf, and she's pretty much refuses to learn sign language. So she's basically wants to be heard, but she doesn't really care about hearing people. She talks very loud, she's very brash and over the top, and yeah, that's pretty much what it is. Evan's weirded out by her, and while he's hanging out there, he meets a girl named Andy, who I believe lived in the neighborhood. I don't remember exactly, but yeah. So he meets her, they kind of have this bickering kind of friendship, and that builds throughout the story, and basically, Evan and Andy go to a toy store that's in the local town, and in the back room, they find a can labeled Monster Blood. And this can, I think it's described as like blue, it has like a very faded label on it. And they buy it, and yeah, they take it back to Aunt Catherine's house and begin playing with it. It's like a green slime, as the cover very clearly depicts here. And, they eventually realize that the monster blood is more than it seems as it starts growing and eating things, and eventually Evan's dog Trigger eats part of the monster blood, and some things start happening with him. But yeah, it's a pretty bland book overall. I think there's some decent moments in it. I think Evan's a good protagonist. Him and Andy's bickering does get a little annoying after a while, I will say. But yeah, it's just a very dull book, especially compared to the other 3. Because as of this current moment, this is my favorite book, Say Cheese and Die. And I'll get more into that in my book review for it, but just to know, so far this is my favorite. But back into Monster Blood, again, there's some decent stuff in there. I think the concept of Monster Blood is decent, and obviously it's one of the most popular Goosebumps creatures or items, whatever you want to call it. Obviously, you know, it spawned Cuddles the hamster in the sequel, who is one of the mascots of Goosebumps from the 90s. There was a ton of merchandise surrounding Cuddles the hamster. But yeah, this is arguably the best sequel from what I remember. I haven't read this one in years, so I'll have to see what happens when I reread it. But as for this one, it's pretty weak, as I said. Yeah, not much to it. I'm sorry if I'm a little rambly and kind of being repetitive. I just don't have a ton to say on this book in particular. Yeah, it's just not my thing. I prefer Goosebumps when they're more scary and intense, like Welcome to Dead House, or Say Cheese and Die, or even Him to Stay Out of the Basement. I think those are the best Goosebumps books, or at least ones with some really good characters, good growth, and things like that, and this book doesn't really have a lot of that. It's very bland, as I mentioned. Yeah, I really don't know what else to say about this book. I think some of the stuff with Trigger and what the monster blood does to him is pretty interesting and has a fun little payoff, I guess. And there's also another plot twist in here with the main villain who is controlling the monster blood. I'm not going to say who it is because I don't want to spoil it for any of you who haven't read the book yet. But I think that's kind of interesting, but overall, this is not my favorite. I would still say it's a solid read. It's definitely far from one of the worst books Goosebumps has ever made. There are definitely worse out there than this. I'd still recommend giving it a try. If you haven't read it, it's one that I would still say go for it and read it if you're interested in it, or if you're just wanting to read through the whole series. I wouldn't say this is a skip book per se, but it's still not great. I think the episode is better, and I will get into that more in my episode review, but yeah, that's really all I gotta say about this. This is a short review, but it's a pretty straightforward plot that doesn't really need much explaining. My thoughts on it are just very simple. It's just okay. I'd probably give this book a ranking of probably like, I'm not sure, 5 out of 10, something along there. It's not horrible, as I mentioned, but it's not my favorite either. It's a very middle-of-the-road book. But again, you guys make your own decisions, obviously. If you love this book, I would love to hear your thoughts on it down below in the comments. And yeah, I would love to start a civil discussion, just kind of talking about what you love about the book, what you don't love about the book. So yeah, thank you guys all for watching. That's my thoughts on the book. Again, don't have much else to say. So again, thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't yet, and hope you just ring the bell, obviously, for notifications. And I just hope you have a scary day, and I will see you all next time.